Thank you. So I'm incredibly nervous, but how many parents are in the audience? So I'm convinced that your parents don't tell you much about being a parent, because if they did, the species would die out. And my husband and I, my husband's in the audience back there, but my husband and I used to laugh. We'd go to the airport and we'd laugh at parents because they had, more gear for their kids than, a little 10-pound kid in a carrier than we had for ourselves. And then we became parents, and it started to dawn on us that life as we knew it was over. And then my kids, I have two daughters, one's almost 10, one's 6. I think she's 18. Anyway, they both have ADHD. And we, when we first found out about the diagnosis, we already knew that there were some things that were a little different about our experience, but we were kind of like floundering, and we really could use some support. And so we found out that there was this national ADHD support group. They supposedly had a local chapter here in Manhattan that met at the public library. So we got a babysitter, and we went to the public library, and nobody showed up. And we joked that they all just forgot. But then shortly after that, I found a Facebook group that was parents of children with ADHD, and they had a thread going on their board that was, you're the parent of a kid with ADHD when, and everybody was sharing their stories. And I realized that there was, some of them were funny, some of them were sad, but really, there was really a need for people to hear that other people were going through the same thing. So I'm going to tell you some stories. I probably have way too much material, but these are all real life. I didn't make this stuff up. So my kids have no inhibitions. It's like they go up to nobody's a stranger. They go up to anybody in the playground and they just start talking. They tell them everything. They tell them, my name's Kaylee, I just turned 6. I live at 904 Humboldt Street. So, okay, don't share so much. But anyway, the filter between their brain and their mouth is not existent. And so whatever comes into their head, that's what they say. And one of the first things that I remember, and I record everything because I'm writing a book. But anyway, one of the first things that I remember about the incident with Vanessa, she was potty training, and we were giving her little toys whenever she went poop in the potty. And we were at Dillon's one day, and she had this little turtle, little bath toy squirty thing. She was talking constantly. I mostly just tuned them out because they talk constantly and I would never get anything done. So she was talking, I was pushing the cart around. I stopped to get milk and I'm looking at the milk, and then I realized she's talking to this complete stranger, and I hear, and I got this for going poop in the potty, and it was really big, like this big. And about that same time, she was still in diapers, but we went to a family funeral and she was standing on my lap and the minister was up there talking, and all of a sudden Vanessa goes, I pooped. Okay. But she didn't say it very loud. I don't think the minister heard her. Is Dr. Z here? So Vanessa met Dr. Z when she was about 5, and he talked to her, was making small talk, and then she looked at him and all of a sudden she goes, do you speak English? To the neighbor of my parents. They have a home in Kentucky. She said the same thing to a lady there who I really don't know if she was speaking English, but it sort of sounded like it. Vanessa walked up to a guy in Walmart one time. I was like in the cosmetics, and she went over to the health section, and she followed this guy around the corner, and she looked up at him and she goes, are you a black person? Your skin is really dark. I don't know where they come up with some of the things. I mean, honestly, I don't know where to hear some of the stuff. Like, one time I was taking a nap, and Kaylee wanted to go outside. It was a Saturday. John works on Saturday, and so she was bored, and she couldn't go outside unless I went outside. And finally, she came over to me. She kept coming over and bugging me. She goes, Mom, can I go outside after you get done with your damn nap? You got to be careful, because everything that you say comes out again eventually. So my oldest daughter Vanessa was staying with with her grandparents in Indiana, and Mom took her to lunch and met this old friend of my mom's, and they were sitting there having lunch, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, Vanessa looked at my mom and she said, Grandma, Leah isn't fat. Vanessa used to try and cuss, and I heard her one time and she goes, "Damage!" I don't know where they hear this stuff. One time I was at Dillon's and I was checking out, and the girls were like climbing all over the car and asking if they could get candy, and I was trying to check out and pay, and they'd been climbing on the cart, and I kept telling them to get down, but I wasn't really paying attention to them. All of a sudden the clerk told them to get down, and Kaylee looked at her, and Kaylee was like 4 at the time. She goes, "You don't mess with us." They're not mine. Dr. Cash might remember this, because one time Vanessa, the older one, taught the younger one. I heard him in the bathtub one time, and they were going, "Smell my smelly butt." And Kaylee was about 3.5 or 4, and I took her to the June conference to dinner, and all the people that were sitting around the table, and all of a sudden Kaylee goes, "Smell my smelly butt." Oh, I gotta tell you. So Vanessa was talking about Adam and Eve, and she must have heard this in Sunday school, and so she was trying to explain the story, and she goes, "And there was a snake, and it was from Adam and Eve, and it was a servant. And because of what the snake did, God said, 'I'm going to take away your legs, and from now on you're going to eat dirt.'" And Kaylee was thinking about God one day, and she goes, "Maybe it all started when God said, we should make some bikes." Penises. They've been obsessed with penises. So we used to take Vanessa to picnics, and vet student picnics and everything. There's a lot of dogs there, and Vanessa would go around looking at the dogs. "He has a penis." Yes, he does. So Vanessa and Kaylee had the same kindergarten teacher. Vanessa had her first. And I remember at one parent-teacher conference we were talking about how we gave our kids sex education on a need-to-know basis, when they asked or something. And the kindergarten teacher said, "And we're glad Vanessa doesn't have very much information." But now Kaylee has more information thanks to Vanessa. And one day I was upstairs getting ready for work, and Vanessa and Kaylee were downstairs, and I realized that Vanessa was reading to Kaylee from the sex education book that I had given to Vanessa, which is age appropriate, but still. I was hearing Vanessa saying stuff about intercourse and ejaculation, and so I emailed the kindergarten teacher that morning and said, "Just so you know, you might hear some stuff today." One day, I was sitting at my desk, and Vanessa, when she was about 3 or 4, she came over and she goes, "Where are all the penises?" And I said, "What ones?" And she goes, "The white ones." And I'm like, "I don't know. I have no idea where they came from." It's just like, they just come up and it comes out of the blue. Kaylee was playing with a toy horse, and she is like one of those Breyer horses, and she goes, "This is a boy, he has a penis." And I said, "Well, what's his name?" And she thought about it for a minute. She goes, "He doesn't have a name, he just has a penis." And then one day, Kaylee came, those braided dog rope toys that are kind of stiff? Kaylee was walking around behind my desk. I was sitting at my desk, and she was holding it in front of her. "Look at my penis." I heard Vanessa say to Kaylee, "Kaylee, do you think if we found a boy Barbie, he would have a penis?" Lots of penis talks. Vanessa goes one time, "That's why boys have penises, so they can aim." But now they're starting to notice boys, as actual boys, and not just penises. But anyway, Kaylee said one day last year, she goes, "Mommy, I hate boys, but I do like all my boyfriends." And then she was talking about a boy, and his name was Trey, and she said, "He's not my boyfriend because I'm too young for that. He's just a friend. His name is Trey. I met him at Vacation Bible School, and we sat next to each other and kicked each other." I think that's how love starts. They both say they want to be veterinarians, and they're sometimes a little confused about what a veterinarian is, but they've always said that they want to be veterinarians. And You know, I think it fits because they act like animals. I mean, literally, act like animals. Like, they'll put leashes on each other and take each other for walks around the house. And they'll ask you to play fetch, like they'll come over on their hands and knees and with a ball in their mouth and say, toss it. But Vanessa's a little confused. I went on the Veterans Day parade. I walked with her class when she was in 2nd grade. And she thought for the whole day that I was coming because it was the Veterinarians Day parade. And she thought the whole parade was for veterinarians. And Kaylee announced to one of the cashiers where we were checking out, sometimes she goes, my mom's a veterinarian, but she does eat meat. And then she used to go to the Stone House, which is right behind the vet school, and so we drive by there, and she knew where I worked, and she'd been with me a couple times. Yeah, don't ever take your 4-year-old with ADHD to work with you. It doesn't work out so well. But anyway, she goes one day, she was in the back seat, she goes, when I grow up, I'm going to be a veterinarian just like you, but you're going to have to drive me to the workplace because I don't know where it is. But she's kind of working on her bedside manner, and she came up to me one day and she goes, here, pretend like I'm examining your cat. And I said, okay. And she goes, ma'am, what's your name, Judy? And I said, yes. And she said, well, give me all your money for writing your cat stuff. She's got the financial part down in it. So I told somebody through, like, last year that nothing that my kids ever did would surprise me anymore, but I think apparently I was wrong. But this was actually a couple years ago. We went grocery shopping, we came home, we were unpacking the groceries, the girls wanted to play in the front yard, had the front door open, I said, okay, just stay where we can see you. And a couple minutes later, I realized that there was 2 ladies with a stroller standing on the sidewalk in front of our house, watching the front of the house and laughing. So I thought, okay, I didn't see the girls anymore, I better go see what's happening. And I walked to the front door just as Vanessa comes in carrying her pants because she apparently had to pee, and so she just decided to use the landscaping in the front yard with an audience. But then just last fall, I had to apologize to their babysitter because they went over there for a sleepover. And the next day, all their kids, so my 2 kids and her 2 kids, were playing in the backyard. And they had butterfly nets, and there were no butterflies, and they were frustrated. So they decided to poop in the backyard to attract some flies, so they could catch flies with their nets. Apologized to Heather for having kids that were apparently born in a barn, but I think it was actually her daughter's idea, and she said she was still laughing when she found out why they did it. She had to keep from laughing. And then I'll just finish off with, you know how they say, here's your sign? Well, with my kids, sometimes there's some things where you should just don't ask. So they say some things. So when they're taking a bath together, and one of them yells, I'm not peeing. Just don't ask. Or when they're at McDonald's in the playground and Kaylee comes running in because she wants the mirror out of my purse because Vanessa wants to look and see if she still has her teeth. Just don't ask. Kaylee was in the kitchen and I heard some noise and I said, Kaylee, did you make a mess? And she said, yeah, but Maya helped me clean it up. Maya's our dog. I didn't ask. So, Vanessa said to me one time, Mommy, nose boogers are not very tasty. I asked, I said, how do you know it? She goes, because I tried. And nose boogers and nose hairs are not very tasty. But chocolate milk and strawberry milk are really tasty. And then recently, Vanessa said, Kaylee said, Mom, fresh pee is better than spit. I didn't ask. Last year, Vanessa said, Mom, when bears hibernate, they make a plug for their butt out of pine cones. I didn't ask. But I did ask this one. She said, Mom, do you know why I want to quit YUM, which is the youth group at our church, and she doesn't like to go. It's after school on Wednesdays. I said, why? She goes, because they don't let you fart. Mr. Simon lets us fart. So, yeah. I guess that I'll just finish with, it's really easy in one way. You have to learn to work with what you have. And it's easy to distract kids with ADHD. If they're wanting you to do something and bugging you, you can just send them off to do something else and they forget about the whole thing. So if I need a break, I can just send them upstairs to get dressed, and I know that it'll take at least 30 minutes. And maybe more depending on how many toys there are out in their room. But if they're gone and it's quiet, you need to worry. So one time when Vanessa was about 2, we heard, John and I were talking in the kitchen, and then we realized that there was a lot of giggling in the living room. And so we went to look and see, and we had a spray bottle with water that we had 3 dogs at the time, and we used it if they were chewing on things or scratching or whatever, sprayed on them. Well, she was spraying the spray bottle on everything in the living room. All the electronics, tables, furniture, everything. She thought that was hilarious. One time she went upstairs, Vanessa, and she was gone in her room for a long time, and then she came down and I said, "What were you doing?" You know the don't ask thing? Anyway, she goes, "I was practicing flying in the spare bedroom." Okay. And then Kaylee was upstairs for a long time and it was quiet, and then all of a sudden she goes, "Mom!" I said, "What?" And she goes, "I love you." Hey, what did you do? I didn't ask. I said, "Thank you, I love you too." So anyway, I think that's enough. I could go on for a long time.